says recording on that one.
Yeah, but it's not supposed to be showing that. It's supposed to be showing this. That's what we want to record.
Ready.
We good? Just letting everybody in.
Everybody's in?
Okay.
Oh, something on the one, but that'll happen a lot.
All right, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Germantown Central School District Board of Education's meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To remind everybody that the meeting is being recorded. All right, number one, reopening GCS plan. Reopen GCS plan. Non-action item, overview of the reopen GCS plan presented by Sue Brown, Superintendent of Schools. Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Good evening, everyone. This reopen GCS plan, which is a living document, is on our website for all to see. It was submitted on July 31st to the New York State Education Department. It has since had 2 updates. One that was issued on August 5th and another issued on August 11th, yesterday. We anticipate another update on Friday because this truly is a living document. And as you know, we have several leadership team meetings, staff meetings, and community meetings to address questions and gain ideas from our wonderful community. This is truly a process, ladies and gentlemen, and one that I personally have never been a part of, and I think most of us can say that. It is just, it literally brings tears to my eyes to see the many, many hours the 62 volunteers have worked. They started on July 7th for 3 hours, met again on the 23rd, and again on the 28th, and then on August 11th. They consistently ask questions, clarify, speak to specialists, and together, and the only way this could be done is together, the community will do what is right for the children that we serve at the Germantown Central School District. I would like you to please look at the table of contents, just so as you're checking every couple of days to see what is new, you'll see that for every update, the date on the front will also be in yellow highlight so that you don't have to pour through the entire document looking for something new and different. So when I indicate on the front that it was updated on 8/11, the 2 sections that were updated was the reopened GCS plans at a glance and the communications with family and community engagement. Turning to page 4, the guiding assumptions. Once the plan was sent to the New York State Education Department, we began to meet with faculty. In fact, there were 4 meetings on Monday and Tuesday right after the submission to meet with the faculty. The staff meeting, by the way, is tomorrow, and the community meeting is tomorrow night. The first thing we did is we went over the guiding assumptions. These were created by the 62 reopened GCS volunteers with a leadership team as the group that after every meeting would get together to put all of it, everything that we have learned. Hang on a minute, I'm letting folks in, excuse me a minute. To put everything that we have learned in the form of a plan. Number 1 is that the health and safety of students and staff is the priority. Number 2 is that for in-person learning, all individuals will wear masks and maintain social distancing. Mask breaks, which is defined as the removal of a mask, may be taken in specific circumstances when social distancing of at least 6 feet is well established with little or no movement of individuals expected. I'm going to quickly mention that as the leadership team is now meeting daily to examine closely the questions posed by parents and community for tomorrow night's meeting, this is by far the number one question being asked. There is no doubt in my mind that we will be providing clarification on masks and much more specifics, as it has become very obvious that this is something that our community needs. Number 3, in-person instruction will begin with core academic programs and the strictest health and safety protocols. Once the health and safety protocols are well established, additional academic and extracurricular activities will be phased in. So for example, we really want to get all the basics right. We know that that entails an enormous amount of training for faculty and staff and an enormous amount of training for students as well. When we know we've got it right, we can add more things. Number 4, the first week of school this evening on the Board of Education's agenda, there is an item requesting that we put all 4 superintendent's conference days the first week of school. We have already started a program, a schedule, if you will, for all 4 days. It entails an enormous amount of health and safety training, but also the preparation of an orientation that families can then attend virtually. And we've had lots of questions about, we want to see the classroom. What does it look like on the bus? So we're hoping to be able to answer those questions. Number 5, students will return to in-person instruction in phases. While they're phasing in and some students are in the building, all other students are in a remote instruction model. The building capacity data that we gathered through an insurance company and our architect indicated that we can open with 100% in-person instruction. Not a simple task. It includes basically rearranging the entire building, of which we are hard at work with our great custodial and maintenance staff and our principals designing these new spaces, and also sharing that with our teachers to get feedback for the instructional aspect. Health and safety plans indicate that we can reopen with 100% in-person learning. This is an area that we are getting significant detail because, as you are aware, the Columbia County Department of Health is our one-to-one partner for all aspects of the health and safety, especially the COVID-related changes and items that we're required to do. That document, as per Governor Cuomo, is required to be posted by Friday. We did have our end, a lot of it posted already. On Friday, some of the questions we're receiving will be answered because we were meeting daily, or excuse me, weekly with the Department of Health. Obviously, with this deadline on Friday, we're meeting more often this week. And the third part, of course, was the one that could have stopped the whole plan: transportation. Due to spacing, social distancing on a bus, it took us a while to get clear guidance from the New York State Department of Health and New York State Education Department, who revised some original guidance to give us guidelines that enable us to put, this is an approximate number, 22 students on a bus. These buses typically have a capacity for 66 students, but the data partnered with what we can physically place on a bus was the first survey we did with parents, when our incredibly giving community, any parent who was able to provide transportation and responded indicated that they can do that. And that's the only way we could have even considered 100% in person. Number 6 is that students and staff will be grouped in pods to reduce person-to-person interactions. Number 7 is that all plans are living documents and may change with updated guidance from the New York State Department of Health, Columbia County Department of Health, the CDC, the New York State Education Department, and executive orders from the governor. And the last item, number 8, is that the district will accommodate the needs of students and staff who are deemed medically vulnerable or have a household member who is medically vulnerable and therefore cannot participate in full in-person instruction. These guiding assumptions have really helped us as we go off on tangents discussing the pros and cons of decisions to be made. And they've helped us rein it in and remain focused on what we were trying to do throughout the planning. The rest of the plan, well, the next page, page 5, is another page that was, is a page that was changed. So I want to hit on that quickly. In the beginning, we only defined the 3 potential models. Sorry, I just have to let folks in here. In the beginning, we defined the remote versus in-person versus hybrid. After meeting with the faculty, the week after we submitted the original 731 version, we had more detail. The teaching and learning group, which has also considered school schedules, has been working diligently to really try to focus in. They had many scenarios they examined. They did pros and cons on the scenarios. And then the leadership team met to really take a closer look at those scenarios. So on the first update, I think that was the 5th. Yes, 8/5 on August 5th, we updated this page. That actually caused confusion because under the hybrid instruction at the bottom, where it states 9/21/2020, add the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students as follows. Red group, 50% of those students in grades 7 to 12. White group, 50% of those students in 7 to 12. And that they would come in basically 2 days a week with 3 days remote. On yesterday's update, I clarified by pushing that away from the other group because some folks were thinking that meant all students. It was never to be all students. The plan was always that students pre-K through 6th grade were 5 days a week, and I added those words 5 days a week to clarify that. That's one of the questions we received several times. And then on the next page, the communications plan is the next update. At the bottom of page 6, instead of August 2020, staff and community meetings, we've indicated the scheduled staff and community meetings. Staff meetings are ongoing. They're happening multiple times during the week. I didn't want to put all the dates in, but the community Zoom panel discussions are all indicated there in our plan as recommended by the BOCES superintendent, that we not only advertise them to our community, but include them in the plan. By the way, before the governor required that we have 1 staff and 3 community meetings between the 7th and I think the 21st, we had already scheduled 1 of each of those. So we were a little bit ahead of the game. So now we have scheduled 2 more. The leadership team discussed it and decided it's important to offer them at different times during the day so folks all have an opportunity to engage if they choose to do so. So we have 1 in the evening, 1 at noon, and 1 at 3 p.m. I am not going to step through the entire plan because I know you've all had an opportunity to look at it. And since this is the Board of Education meeting, I wanted to identify for you, but also for the folks who have joined us this evening via Zoom, about the changes and call your attention to it. I would like to look at the last page because, of course, this is a huge impact for the Board of Education, and update you on some of these budget considerations. In the first section under staffing, these are items that we really feel we're going to,
There's a fly.
this fly has it out for me. This list of 5, these are personnel issues that we really feel to have in-person instruction are extremely, extremely important. I already have an update on number 4. The 0.5 of a full-time social worker. So remember the CARES Act money when we were talking about the budget was approximately, I think, 86,000. And we had said, if we get that money, we would get a social worker. We needed a second social worker, at least a partial, part-time one, before COVID even happened. As you can imagine, with social emotional learning and social emotional for our students is just a very, very priority item. The good news is the state has now issued the grant that we have to fill out to apply for the money, and the BOCES is ready as soon as we get word that we're going to get that money to send a person our way. And it's not a 0.5, it is a 0.6, which is even better. So that is in the works. Under item number 3, Roman numeral 3, item 3, that will probably be changed. There's a lot of questions. I told you masks are a huge question. Those questions will be responded to the best of our ability tomorrow during the staff meeting in the daytime, and then again in the evening for the community. I anticipate changes there. And then in item number 4, we did have some clarification from, we have our architect who gave us HVAC clarification. We also have one of the volunteers on our team is an engineer who is very familiar with HVAC. And thirdly, we have our health and safety officer from the BOCES all working to ensure that we're explaining that item correctly. In addition to this, financially, we have received 1 grant, and that was for the exterior access points to increase the Wi-Fi around the outside of the building. And as you're aware, being able to go outside for a class is really a highly desired thing. And if they need to bring their computers for that class, we need to have the Wi-Fi out there for them. It would also be very helpful to families who don't have access to internet. Hang on a minute. If we end up in a completely remote situation. We have just applied for a new grant for hotspots for families who are in the situation and not have internet. And this is a regional information center grant. So all of the schools in our BOCES and all the schools north, all the way to the Canadian border, are in the same regional information center, NARIC. It's the Northeastern New York Regional Information Center. We have all gotten together to apply for a grant for these regional hotspots. And today I attended a wonderful meeting of the Columbia County supervisors who have gotten together with the superintendents of Columbia County schools and the vendors who provide internet in our school district. We all met today to work out how we can make sure in the situation of fully remote that all families will be able to have their children engage in that remote instruction. So as you know me well, this could have been 2 or 3 hours. I didn't think that would go over too great, but Tammy, would you like me to entertain questions?
Yeah, as board members, do we have questions?
I have to come to you with this, remember?
Huh?
Do you want the first question?
No, you go ahead.
All right, hang on. Oh, wait. Okay, wait.
Want me to come to you, Sid?
I don't know. I didn't think this worked through well enough, I guess.
So for the budget considerations, do we have any kind of a ballpark figure what all this is going to cost? And the second part of my question would be, do we have reserve funds targeted already that we're allowed to use? Money for?
Okay, so the question is regarding where the funds would come from for these budgeted items. We paid very close attention to building the stockpile of PPE at the end of last year. That was really a smart choice because I think what it's allowed us to do is look carefully at the 2020-2021 budget and be able to earmark some of these things. But I would not recommend hiring without information from New York State and the federal government about any potential tax cuts, or excuse me, state aid reductions. So that's still out there, right? There's still 25% that they may be taking. If that becomes a reality, I would not recommend we hire any of these people, and it could in fact change our entire plan. We're all waiting on the edge of our seat. We have so many irons in the fire. We're just trying to plan with some optimism, thinking we would be able to have these positions. Regarding the reserves, Dina Bizzaro, our business manager, is looking into that to see if any of our existing reserves can be used to buy some of these items. Some of these, oh, and I should have said, some of the things under materials and supplies, we are buying with our regular materials and supplies lists. And we bought, let's see, what are some of the other things? The PPE primarily has been purchased. Adult face and desk shields have been purchased. Air conditioners were purchased. But we all know what the big cost is, right? It's the personnel. The personnel, except for the part-time social worker, I would never sign off on that. We're too much in the unknown. Any other questions?
I do.
All right, you have a mic.
I have a mic. The biggest concerns that I have, I've spent the time on the teaching and learning, is that first and foremost, that bringing kids in on the 14th, the youngest groups in, it just makes me nervous. Our teachers, our classrooms going to be ready? I've spoken, a lot of teachers have reached out to me, as you, I'm sure, can imagine. And they're very nervous period of having our kids come in, but then having the youngest group coming in first. So I said I would bring it up here because you have a young child. I don't. I mean, I don't have kids in district anymore. But I wanted to just bring that up, that there are a lot of major concerns, just being prepared. Not anybody not saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to come in. Every teacher wants to come back to school. But just the being ready for that. That's what I've heard the most from the faculty that have reached out to me.
Okay, so this slide literally has it out for me.
Killing us.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions. You know me, they're all in the spreadsheet, sorted by topic. That's how you best, figure out what do people really want to know and how can we use the 2 hours with the people to respond to these questions in an efficient manner. Yes, that is a question that we've heard a few times. We struggled with who comes back first, and we made the determination that the youngest children should come back for 2 primary reasons. The first primary reason is when the youngest children are here, we anticipate they might take a lot of people to get them trained in all these new protocols. Now, for years, I've watched kindergartners arrive before we had pre-K, and magically the next day, they walked down the hall, all going in the same direction. Nobody was touching the wall. Their hands were in the turtle shell. Now imagine we have to teach them many, many times that. So the idea was, if the youngest children are the first ones in the building, all of our, not teachers, because the teachers would be teaching the other children remotely, but all of our other pedagogical and related service staff, paraprofessionals, sorry, and related service staff can be all hands on deck. So it's not the kindergarten teacher with one TA in a room full of children. It's the kindergarten teacher, the one TA, and maybe 4 other people, of course, with proper spacing and PPE, all working on the same goal. You have your counselors available. You have your school psychologist, your social worker, and maybe 1.5 of them. It's all hands on deck for the youngest children. And then as we move up in the ages, there will be less people, because now some are dedicated to pre-K, some are dedicated to K and 1 and 2. We're moving to the middle elementary. You need less hands on deck because they're older children. That was our rationale. The second piece had to do with childcare in the home. Childcare has been a big issue since the beginning. It is a big issue for many of our families. And if we were to take the older children in first, we could be throwing some families into a big problem when the older sibling is the childcare for the younger sibling. And even though there are pros and cons to everything, nothing is a flat out answer in this thing. Nothing. We weighed those 2 things to be more important than all the other things. And I will tell you, and I think it's important for you to know, that the leadership team met for a pretty good period of time today looking at the questions. And many times when people express questions, they express opinions as well. And we do believe we're getting a very clear sense of where our parents and community and staff feel we need to adjust some of our plan. And I think you will be pleased to see that we are responsive to people's concerns in the plan, the revised plan that will be coming out on Friday.
And just the other thing, our CTE kids, these are our kids that go to Questar. It says that they'll be coming in. So Questar is open. One of the things that I did see today is Questar is doing the same types of meetings. Is it possible to make sure we get that on our Facebook page or something like that? Questar is holding I saw it on Facebook today, a virtual for their CTE families.
Okay, Lynn, do you mind making a note? We will reach out and get an invitation for the CTE families, the Questar staff meetings that are occurring. Now,
Yeah.
my understanding is, as of today, today's Wednesday, I meet with all the superintendents and the BOCES 3 times a week. As of today, they are still starting all the CTE programs on September the 9th, which is Wednesday of the first week. Our buses will be running on September the 9th, even though no children are coming here that week. They will be picking up our CTE students and taking them to their program. So that's a clarification that our parents need to know as well. And Lynn, you have a note of that? Thank you. Okay, let me come.
In terms of the options to start out, our families offer the option to just choose full remote to begin? Yes.
Okay, so the question is there, can families opt to choose a fully remote program. And with this plan, no. With the one on Friday, it is highly likely. So again, by analyzing the questions and comments made, but also having the conversations with our staff, which is huge. You know, we can't figure this out as individuals, not as a leadership team, not even a group of 61. We have way more than that. We have all of our parents. We have our community. We have our entire staff, 112 individuals giving input. I do believe after tomorrow's meeting, which I'm jumping the gun a bit, but I do believe that will be a clear decision that we will make. I also see a lot of clarity with a decision somewhat similar to the question that Tammy asked about the likely delay of any in-person. And we're looking at that carefully. We worked very hard today. The principals, Yvonne Waters, Jim Palmieri regarding the facility. We were all working, trying to see what does that look like for the students, families, and staff at Germantown. And we believe that after actually meeting with these folks tomorrow, the feedback will be very strong to have that happen.
So you mean starting remotely?
Starting remotely.
Many schools have opted to do that. I mean, that's what I'm
Every
doing at
day,
Catskill.
more schools are doing it.
And just so you are preparing for what inevitably could come down the line as well, which
Right.
is, and a lot of schools can't. We're fortunate to have a small population right now. Who knows what can happen before school starts, that we can fit everybody, which is fantastic. A little scary, but fantastic. But a lot of schools can't. So we have that benefit, but starting remotely just to get the ball rolling again. That was something we discussed a lot yesterday, and the teacher.
That primarily came out of the teaching and learning group and the questions being provided by parents, as well as the one that Heather just brought up. Those seem to be very big ticket items, if you will.
Didn't Paul say we have to have a remote plan anyways?
Well, we do have a remote plan.
Like,
I think, you know, there's a couple positives to starting remotely. One, we're buying a little more time to make sure everything's in place. And two, let's just say there might be a chance that we would be forced into the remote model. I mean, I think it's a consideration, which is why the governor and the State Department of Education and the state health department require that we have 3 plans, that we understand and have looked at and analyzed what fully remote looks like. This is an opportunity to implement it, to find any flaws in it, while we're continuing to prepare all of the protocols, the building itself, the teachers, and the families by doing almost like a dry run, if you will, at the beginning of the school year. So I'm sure it will have a negative impact on families who are really, really desperate for childcare, but we could not find any other negative impacts that were substantial. And we felt that the positives by being able to test the newly developed plan, by being able to transition from remote to in-person and then back to remote, by rehearsing that, if you will, were too strong to ignore.
What about COVID testing of staff? Is that happening? Are people asking for that?
Okay, so COVID testing is in the arena of the Department of Health. And there was a clarification because the original statement by the governor made it sound like schools had to do testing. That was never the intent. A clarification came out immediately afterward. We are not a testing center. We are not licensed to be a testing center, nor are we going to pursue a license to be a testing center. But the testing center in our county is the Columbia County Department of Health and all of the centers that they have and all of the protocols that they have. The meeting I had with them today, by Friday, we will make the deadline and we will post on our website as well as on every single Columbia County School District website, and morph it into our living document, all of the protocols surrounding testing from the Columbia County Department of Health. There is no requirement, no. There's a requirement to have protocols, instances, description of how it's done, and to make sure that we're all in compliance with the New York State Department of Health, and that is the Columbia County Department of Health's primary task this week, since they have to give it to us by Friday. And we've been working with them all along. Even the school nurses in all of the Columbia County schools are doing a second meeting with them every week. So the superintendents meet with them every week, the nurses meet with them every week, and this week there's tons of meetings because we're trying to get that finalized.
One of the concerns I'm hearing a lot from people is what the quarantine policy will be if a case of COVID does show up. And I see the policy, it looks like we're still developing that. Is that correct?
So the question is about how quarantine occurs if a positive test occurs with a student or staff member. And that is also a Department of Health protocol. Basically, the Department of Health has people whose job is to be the one-to-one partner with each school nurse. And it's really sounds phenomenal. The school nurses started meeting, I'm thinking the beginning of, it could have been the end of June, but I think it was the beginning of July. And they have nurses, it's literally a hotline situation, right? So if a case occurs, that goes 100%, the period of quarantine. Everything that happens after that is Department of Health protocol. But we're hooked up with them so that if there's a suspicion of a symptom, all the nurse has to do is pick up the phone, and that nurse, that school nurse, and their partner at the Department of Health determines what is to be done. But really, Les's question was about a positive case, I believe. Did I get that right? And the positive case is 100% in the Department of Health's ballpark. So it is under development, and it is, I believe, one of the ones required to be posted on Friday.
I think that's why we need to make sure we have a very solid remote plan, because it's going to happen. It's just, hope it's not, but it's going to. The major question I had too is, have we reached out to substitutes to find out if they want to come back? Have you been doing that, Lynn?
Yes, we've reached out to substitutes, and we are bringing them in for the training during the week of 8 to 11. We have also offered that to bus drivers, even though they're not our employees. They work for the contractors that the district contracts with, and the bus driver company owners thought that was a great idea. And even though they're doing all of their own health and safety training, because they have a big, they have guidance too. What we really want them to, our bus drivers are part of our world here. They have always been. They know the kids, they know the families, they communicate, they have always gone above and beyond, and they're a wonderful group of people to work with. And our feeling is, bring them in, let them understand, what does bus drop-off look like? What does it look like on the inside? What does it look like when they come outside? What What does pickup look like in the afternoon? What does loading and unloading look like? And that's because they're a partner with us. They will be the people where they will be on a bus and a child will say, I'm not sure what's going to happen today. And they will take the time because they are kind and caring people and know our families to say, oh, don't worry. You know, this is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. They've always been our partners, and we want to invite them in for like a sort of above and beyond their call of duty orientation during that week. We could always use more subs. So if you know somebody who wants to sub, please, 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 we would love to have them. And you'll see in the training part of this plan under the communications that we are very aware that training will have to happen over and over. I know the board is familiar with, you know, we just appointed a couple more subs. We just appointed a couple more subs. They will all need that intensive training as soon as they are hired. So we have that in our plan. Also, students who are new to the district. If a new family comes in, we do, of course, have always had a small orientation for them. This is now going to be a significant orientation for that child and that family so that they understand how we are running our school in a worldwide pandemic.
So my question, as long as you were talking about bus drivers along that line, if we could only put 22 students in a bus, and although you said families are willing to bring students here, how many extra runs do we think that's going to cause us to have to do?
Okay, the question was, how many extra runs will we have to do? We cannot afford any extra runs. We need to do this with one run. It's not an option, in my opinion. We've looked at it closely. With this added change to ask our families who is going to commit to sending their children in person, Linda will finally have the numbers and the names of the people who have no other transportation, and we will be looking very carefully at, basically we have 10 runs, 22, that's 220 students. It's actually a lot of students. Bear in mind, though, there are certain instances when you cannot fit 22 due to a variety of reasons. It would be under. It would never be over. So we really need that information. We're going to be asking our families to respond to a survey. A lot's going to happen in the next 48 hours. That survey is going to go out. It's going to have a really fast deadline. It's going to be issued to all of our families to get a sense of these numbers, because this plan is not implementable until we get that data. It's very possible transportation could become an issue, and then we will have to take a look at how do we respond to that. For example, in the hybrid model, where you see that some students in the school, we had just talked about that, come in only 2 days a week, so you have half of those grades 2 days a week, the other half 2 other days a week. Those types of things will have to be tweaked to accommodate the needs of all our families.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I applaud everybody who's sat on it. I've sat on the committees, and I know others have. It's a lot of work, and there are no right answers. And Linda, I never amended the agenda, did I? No. Nuts. All right, need a motion to amend the agenda to include consent agenda item 2U, proposed executive session, and change tax levy information as presented on revised agenda. Okay. Teresa, then Donald. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, approve consent agenda items as listed. Need a motion? All right, Annie, then Heather. All right, any discussion? Heather, then. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So carried. All right, financial. All right, action item, adopt tax levy resolution for the 2020-2021 school year. Whereas the Board of Education of the Germantown Central School District has been authorized by the voters at the annual school district meeting to raise for the current budget of the 2020-2021 school year, a sum not to exceed $15,792,913. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education fixes the equalized tax rates by towns and confirms the extensions of the tax rates as they appear on the following tax roll. I'm not going to read through the chart. Okay, and be it further directed that the tax warrant of this board duly signed shall be affixed to the above described tax rolls authorizing the collection of said taxes to begin September 1st, 2020 and end October 31st, 2020, giving the tax warrant an effective period of 60 days at the expiration of which time the tax collector shall make an accounting in writing to the Board of Education. And be it further directed that the delinquent tax penalties shall be fixed as the followings. The first month, September 1st through September 30th, no penalties. Second month or fraction thereof, October 1st through October 31st, penalty of 2%. And after November 15th to the county treasurer for collection. I need a motion. Second? All right, Donald, second. Any discussion? Is this the one that we do? Yeah, what is it? Hold on. Hold on. We can't hear you.
The tax levies that are on the paper here, a lot of the towns are below the 100%, and that's due to the high sales of property in Columbia County right now because of the coronavirus. Last year, most of them were all 100%. This year, they all dropped because of the sales. Prices are higher, right, Ralph? Well, Germantown's going to be 100%.
Hold on, Ralph. Hold on.
Germantown is going through a reval, and come this coming year, we're going to be at 100%. Right now, we're at 78.
So this is the one where we vote, we have to sign our names to it, so I'll pass it around to you. All right, starting with myself, Tammy Kelmans, I vote yes. What? Oh, I gotta do all of it first? I thought it was going A, then B. Okay. All right. So we made a motion to vote in the first. That's the second part. Okay, so we have to vote for the first part, though.
No,
We didn't vote. No, we were discussing. We didn't vote for it yet. That's-
They were at
okay.
discussion. They have to complete the vote.
Okay.
Hang on a minute, Heather.
Heather has a question. That's what I thought. Okay. That's okay. It's so hard to hear everybody. The maths.
So, it says here penalty of 2% when someone's delinquent. Are we giving any kind of cushion for the, pandemic, and if people are unable to pay because of loss of work or anything like that? Is that a possibility?
I have not heard anything. in
I
regards to
think,
that.
we would need to have Dina weigh in on this. I believe the only thing that I heard And I can find out for you, but let me see if she is in the room. But my understanding is the only thing school districts can do because of the pandemic is to change the dates of actual collection. And I have not heard of any districts who are doing that, because, you know, again, I'm unsure. I don't know exactly what those dates were, but it didn't seem, I believe, to be something that was really going to be significant assistance. So these, this is, I think that's the only choice the board could have had, and I can certainly have Dina get that information to the board.
Anything else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved to the tax collector of the Germantown Central School District, towns of Ingram, Claremont, Gallatin, Germantown, Livingston, Taconic, County of Columbia, New York State. You are hereby commanded to give notice and start collection of taxes on September 1st, 2020. To give notice that tax collection will end on October 31st, 2020. To collect taxes in the sum of $9,652,267 minus taxes funded by the STAR exemption of $593,406.97. The net amount of tax to be collected on this warrant shall be $9,058,860.03. Such taxes to be collected in the same manner as collectors are authorized to collect town and county taxes in accordance with the provision of Section 1318 of the Real Property Tax Law. To make no changes or alterations to the tax warrant or attached tax rolls, but to return the same to the Board of Education. To forward by mail to each owner of real property listed on the tax rolls within 10 days after the start of collection, a statement of taxes due. To receive from each of the taxable corporations and natural persons the sums listed on the attached tax rolls without interest penalties when such sums are paid before the end of the first month of tax collection period. To add 2% interest penalties to all taxes collected during the second month of the tax collection period, and to account for such as income due to the school district. To promptly return the tax warrant at its expiration, and if any taxes on the attached tax roll shall be unpaid at that time, deliver an accounting thereof as required by Section 1330 of the Real Property Tax Law. This warrant is issued and delivered in accordance with Section 1306 and Section 1318 of the Real Property Tax Law. It is effective after it is properly signed by the majority of the Board of Education. The warrant shall expire on the date stated above unless a renewal or extension has been enforced on the face of this warrant in writing in accordance with Section 1318, Subdivision 3 of the Real Property Tax Laws. All right, need a motion? All right, Les, second?
Second.
All right, Donald, second? All right, any discussion? All right, this is the one where I'm going to send the sheet around after we vote. So Tammy Kellenbenz, I vote yes. Donald? right, so Linda. Linda, is the motion passed? All right, thank you, motion passed. All right, C, I need a motion to approve the non-resident tuition rate pursuant to the Commissioner of Regulations for the 2019, 2020, is that correct, school year?
Yeah.
Okay, it's always the year behind, right? Okay. K6 regular education at $16,048. K grades 7 through 12 regular education, $11,630. Any motion? All right, Annie, second, Heather? All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, and adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the following allowance disbursement in connection with the 2015 capital project as presented to the board at this meeting. Allowance disbursement, number AD-MC-01 to the site construction contract with E.W. Tompkins for added auditorium ductwork at $604.45, and the differential pressure control for the new pump at $5,201.15, totaling $15,805.60. I need a motion. All right, Annie and Donald. And any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. Abstained? So carried. All right, adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the following change orders in connection with the 2015 capital project as presented to the board at this meeting. Change order number EC-003 to the site construction contract with DLC Electric LLC for the amount of $10,408.23 to be added to the contract amount with DLC Electric LLC. Oh, nope, got one. Sorry. Change order number PC-003 to the site construction contract with Condor Fire Sprinkler Company LLC for the amount of $150,632 to be added to the contract amount with Condor Fire Sprinkler Company LLC. Change order number EC-004 to the site construction contract with DLC Electric LLC for the amount of $12,918.47 to be added to the contract amount with DLC Electric LLC. Change order number HC-004 to the site construction contract with E.W. Tompkins Company, Inc. for the amount of $8,861 to be added to the contract amount with E.W. Tompkins Company, Inc. Need a motion? All right, Teresa, second? Les, second. Any discussion? All right, hang on.
The change order with Condor Fire Sprinkler Company, what happened that it went up $150,000?
Good question.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn to the change order in your packet for the Condor.
We don't have that. That's on. It's online.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm a paper girl. That's the pump house. Does that sound right to you, Les? Let me just grab it. I want to make sure I'm answering it
I put
correctly. There it is. Okay, hang on a sec. Prefabricated pump house skid and tank package. So when Lou Rodriguez and Dave Samuel came to the last meeting, they were talking, I think the last meeting, they were talking about the pump house. This has been a conversation for months and months. And the pump, the fire suppression system for the auditorium entails 40,000 gallon tank of water that was originally designed by the engineers to go underneath the stage. and would be used in case there was a fire in the auditorium. That was changed, and therefore the work of putting it underneath the stage was a credit, but it is now a separate pump house, which is out in the field, so that is a cost. So the credit is coming from the site contractor, right, Les, because they were going to be digging so much further down to put it down below. And so the credit is yet to come as a change order, but we needed to get the change order for the pump house approved so they can order it, because right now that has a long wait time. And it's very likely will be the only part of, I don't want to jinx us, will be the part of the capital project which takes us to when we were really going to finish, and not an early finish, which we were fortunate to have on much of the rest of the project because of school not being in session, and they were able to do things ahead. You're welcome.
Anything else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Right. Personnel action item. Adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints Brittany Walsh to the position of special education teacher in the special education tenure area, possessing an initial certificate in students with disabilities, birth through grade 2, an initial certificate in students with disabilities, grades 1 through 6, to a 4-year probationary term effective September 17th, 2018 through September 16th, 2022. 2 years previously served at an annual salary of $55,465. Step 3, $50,814 plus master's $571 plus 40 credits at $4,080. In order to be granted tenure, a classroom teacher must receive an overall annual professional performance review rating pursuant to Education Law 3012-D of either effective or highly effective in at least 3 of the 4 preceding years. Further, if the classroom teacher receives an ineffective overall APPR rating in the final year of the probationary period, she shall not be eligible for tenure at this time, in which case the Board of Education, in its discretion, may extend the classroom teacher's probationary term for an additional year. All right, need a motion? Heather? Second? All right, Annie, second. Any discussion? Okay.
I'm coming. So 2 years previously served here or somewhere else?
I would sit here.
Yes, she filled a long-term leave position for 2 years, so she could not be given or appointed with a probationary position until the job became not a long-term leave replacement, but an actual job. But because there was no time lapse in between, those 2 years count toward her tenure, toward her probation. Okay, and that was the second question.
Anything else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that Carrie Ann Mills is hereby recalled from the elementary tenure area preferred eligibility list to a full-time, long-term substitute position of an elementary teacher effective September 1st, 2020. A motion? All right, Heather? Any second? Annie? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the board hereby creates the position of cleaner effective August 13th, 2020, with a minimum entry level hourly rate of salary of $12.63. Any motion? All right, Teresa, that's second. Last seconds. Any discussion? Yeah. I didn't hear you.
Is that minimum wage, $12.63? $12.63 higher?
I don't think so.
So it's not minimum wage, but it is a similar salary. It's the hourly wage for a similar employee that we already have.
My question is this the cleaner from the last back page?
Okay, so yes, okay, the question was, is this the cleaner from the back page of the plan? The idea is to create the title, but you're not hiring anyone yet because we don't know if we have the money, right? But the idea is we don't presently have a title cleaner. So we're getting that out of the way, being optimistic and hoping that any minute we're going to get the good news from the government, both federal and state, that we have our budget back. That is something that then the board could consider hiring.
If it doesn't pan out, if we vote on this and say, yes, we're gonna do this, if it doesn't pan out and we don't want to hire someone, is that gonna cause a problem with the union because we've already put it in?
So the board has the right to create the position. And as of this moment in time, all you've done is created a position. Only the board can hire. No other entity has input on hiring, only you. And my recommendation to be considered by you.
We can have positions that aren't filled. So if we created it, and if we don't get the money, we just don't fill it. Unless we vote to eliminate it.
Yeah, that was, thank you, that was better.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, capital projects. Action item, adopt the following secret resolution. Whereas the Board of Education of the Germantown Central School District, the Board of Education is embarking on a capital project entitled 2020-2021 Capital Project. The projects consisting of replacement of water storage tank and associated piping and the partial roof replacement, both of which are located at the main building. And whereas the board's discretionary decision to undertake the projects which may affect the environment is subject to review under the State Environmental Quality Review Act statute, Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, and implementing regulations, or SECRA, and whereas the Board of Education wishes to take all actions necessary in connection therewith in order to comply with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and whereas pursuant to SECRA, the board has designated itself the lead agency and therefore is responsible for assessing whether the project would have any significant adverse environmental impacts, and therefore whether the environmental impact statement, the EIS, would be required. And whereas the board has reviewed the components, phases, and aspects of this project, and whereas the board has determined that the projects consist of maintenance or repair involve no substantial change to in the existing structure or facility, replacement, rehabilitation, or construction of the structure or facility in kind on the same site, including upgrading buildings to meet building, energy, or fire codes, and or routine activities of educational institutions, including expansion of existing facilities by less than 10,000 square feet of gross floor area. And whereas the project qualifies as a type 2 action as defined in the regulations promulgated by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and known as the State Environmental Quality Review, meaning they have been found to categorically not have significant adverse environmental impacts. Therefore, the board's secret review of these actions is complete. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Germantown Central School District is hereby designated as the lead agency under SECRA for the projects and determines that the projects including each of and all of the components are type 2 action pursuant 6 NYCCR 617-5C1, 2, and 10, and that no further environmental review is required. One more time, right? All right, need a motion? Second? Any discussion? Anybody want to ask what this is for?
How about I just tell you?
Yeah.
This is your capital exception project, the $100,000 project you do every year that did remain in the budget. And this, we took a look at the list that the Building and Grounds Subcommittee for the Board of Education reviews, and that the entire board reviews usually once a year. And these were the two most pressing items that needed to be addressed.
Anything else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Whew, superintendent.
Action item A, adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby confers tenure upon Caitlin Rice in the teaching assistant tenure area effective August 12, 2020.
Need a motion? Heather, second? Annie, second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Really wasn't a lot from you.
We have a proposed executive session, which is an action item. Item A, proposed executive session, subject to board approval for the purpose of discussing contract negotiations with Michael S. Johnston, LLC, Pat Zanchelli, Incorporated, and Pulcher Transportation, Incorporated.
Need a motion? All right, Les, Heather? All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, we will, no action after this meeting, so those of you who are watching online, we appreciate it. You can certainly log off, but you will be taken out of this meeting at this point. No
Okay.
recording? All right, need a motion to go back to regulars. All right.
I have Donald.
And Les.
I have Donald and Les.
All right, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. And I need a motion to adjourn. Heather?
I have Heather.
Teresa? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Donald, thank you. Yes, thank you, Donald. Beautiful.
Okay, this meeting recording is ending now.